Inside Racing is brought to you by Dunlop.
The Scottish Highlands, idyllic countryside and tiny villages. It's hard to believe that this is the home to numerous racing legends. Top of the pile, 3 times Formula One world champion Sir Jackie Stewart. His special trademark, a black peaked cap. Born in 1939 in Dunbartonshire, he raced to world fame in the mid-60s. The then team principal Ken Tyrrell recognised his talent and gave him his big break. Yet even then, the contract negotiations were typically Scottish.
I had no money in those days at all, even less than I've got now. And Ken gave me the offer of the drive for Formula 3. Now, keep in mind, 64, he said, I'd like you to drive for me after the test. And I said, okay, what's the arrangement you're going to do? He said, I'll give you a contract for 5 years. And I'll give you £10,000 now. If you sign for 5 years, and I'll take 10% of your earnings for the next 5 years. And I said, well, what's the alternative? He said, £5, because that was the legal tender of a contract. Right. It had to have a value on it. It was £5. And I had to think about it. I thought, I better think about it. And I phoned him up the next morning, and I'm going through my head, the canny Scot, I'm thinking, my God, there must be more money in this than I realised if he's paying out £10,000. So I phoned up the next morning and said, I'll take the £5. The best thing I ever did.
It clearly was, as it was the start of an unparalleled career. And that at a time when, in the truest sense of the word, motor racing could end in deadly fashion.
That if you raced at that time, we were only 16 people on the grid. And we lost one every month for 4 consecutive months. And if you raced for 5 years, there was a 2 out of 3 chance you were going to die. A 1 out of 3 you were going to live. I mean, it was ridiculous. And the authorities at that time, the governing body and the track owners, wouldn't listen.
A situation that the committed Scot was not minded to accept, as he was seeing friends and colleagues die on the track. It was time to make a stand, even if people didn't want to listen to him at first. Some even maintained that he'd ruined the romance of the sport. From today's perspective, totally absurd.
Because I started to win races, particularly in '69 and then with the World Championships, I had the media, frankly, some of whom did not approve.
I remember.
But on the other hand, it was common sense that we couldn't keep on killing people. The sport would have been endangered. Insurance companies would have turned around and said, we've had enough of this. We're not going to allow it anymore. Because if there had been a crowd incident, that would have been a terrible thing. And in those days, there could have been. Yes. Because all it was grass banks or straw bales.
Yeah, absolutely.
And by then, we were running 3-litre Formula One cars that were quick, the Cosworth Ford, more or less everybody apart from Ferrari and BRM. So the speeds had gone higher and the safety nothing had happened, Simon. And it was just common sense. It was helped by the fact that I was winning races and I was winning world championships. But even then, it was an enormous struggle. Whereas, we've now been 16 years and we've never lost a driver in Formula One in all of those 16 years. I mean, it must be the best example of risk management of any business, any industry, and certainly any sport.
And Sir Jackie Stewart played a big part in that. He was the first driver to have a doctor of his own at the circuit. Until then, unheard of. A removable steering wheel and the circuit breaker for the electronics are also down to him. Today, he can look back with pride on his achievements and victories. He enjoys reminiscing, and on our Dunlop Inside Racing stage at the Goodwood Festival of Speed, even cracked the odd joke about the tough times back in the past.
Those days, of course, motor racing was dangerous. and sex was safe. I fixed the motor racing. All of you responsible for the rest.
Still a quick and witty Scot, this Sir Jackie Stewart, and to this day, still working hard on behalf of safety in motorsport, for which many drivers are very grateful.
Inside Racing was brought to you by Dunlop.